Now viewers, focus is back on the big story, the Waqf Amendment Bill, which will be tabled in the Parliament today, and all eyes are on the debate. The centre shall table the bill at 12 p.m. in the Lok Sabha. Additionally, 8 hours of discussion has been assigned for the same in the lower house. This is opposed to the 12-hour demand by the opposition. Meanwhile, the NDA allies, the TDP and the JD, have quashed all the speculation over their stand on the Waqf bill. Both the parties have issued a 3-line in the Lok Sabha during the time of, the debate, and support the centre on this issue. However, the India Bloc shall unanimously oppose the Waqf Amendment Bill in the Parliament. The opposition has presented a united face with key leaders huddling the national capital to formulate a joint strategy for the Lok Sabha. Bigwigs from the Congress, Samajwadi Party, NCPSP, Trinamool Congress, I.N.D.I.A Party and the DMK were present in this crucial meeting. Meanwhile, slamming the bill and calling it unconstitutional, AICC President Mallikarjun Kharge has affirmed that the opposition shall work together on the floor of the Parliament to defeat the centre. Now let's take a look at the aim of this bill that has been much in contention, and what are the amendments that are basically proposed by the JPC, where the reforms are also likely to be made. So starting up with exactly the aims. The first of the aim of the Waqf Amendment Bill includes that reducing the Waqf powers. The power of the Waqf board will be reduced, and claims that the properties as Waqf which are registered, the process becomes more transparent. Second aim is streamlining the Waqf registration process and through a thorough central database within the notices. So it cannot be happening without the interference of the central database. Third aim, which is to be put here, is that it seeks to enhance the transparency and ensure mandatory inclusion of the women in Waqf board. Now this is a very important point where the women from the Muslim community have also felt that this is a satisfying mood. This is where their interests are being kept, and this is where they have also given support to the centre. The next aim that we proceed further is about the proposed amendments. Now the Joint Parliamentary Committee also reviewed all these amendments, and then they have given the proposed amendments, which are that mandatory clause includes 2 non-Muslims in the Central Waqf Council and the State Waqf boards dropped. The mandatory clause that had 2 non-Muslims in the Central Waqf Council and the State Waqf Board has been dropped. Now, this is an amendment that has been proposed by the Joint Parliamentary Committee. The second amendment is that 2 Muslim women will continue to be the members of both the State and the Central Waqf Council. At the Waqf Council, which are at 2 levels, women need to be also made a part of both the council. Now, this is also where the women have felt that their interests are given preference. And number of Waqf board members increased to 3. The number of Waqf board amendment is also very important on how the decisions are taken, and that is why the JPC has proposed that the number should be increased. The government official in the Waqf board must be a joint secretary level officer dealing with the Waqf matters. There has to be a joint secretary officer appointed in the Waqf board, which will be dealing with all the issues, the supervision and the matters at the state and the central level. Now, it also mandates the inclusion of a member in the Waqf tribunal with the expertise in Muslim law and jurisprudence. And this is a very important point where the proposed amendments have also drawn some sort of criticism, where it mandates the inclusion of a member in the Waqf tribunal with the expertise in Muslim law and other matters. Now, when we are looking forward, the amendments also include the right to appoint the officer to determine whether a property is of Waqf or not given to the state government instead of the district collector. This is also in these amendments that the JPC has had several meetings about what will be proposed, and the right to appoint the officer to determine whether the property is of Waqf or to be given to the state government instead of the collector itself. The another amendment that has been proposed by the JPC includes that until a final decision has been made by the state appointed officer, which is the disputed property which is not decided as of now, will continue to be treated as a government property and not the property belonging to the Waqf board. This is what few of the proposed amendments that have been made. Another one is that one member from the Muslim OBC community will now be included in the state Waqf board. This is also a much larger welcomed move from the backward communities, where the representation to the women, the representation to the OBCs have been given more importance, specifically in Waqf boards and constituting the members, so that if equal representation is given, the Waqf board members will also feel more empowered to take decisions which are in the interest of all the communities and people even belonging from the backward backgrounds. Now, let us also move forward with this, and the proposed amendments also have an important point where the state government may set up the separate Waqf board for the Aghani and Bohra communities. Alright, Aga Khani and the Bohra communities are the two communities where the state government has the power and the right to constitute and set up a separate committee to look into it. Alright, in the family Waqf, the Waqf of Alal-Aulad, the women's inheritance rights will be protected. That is why, in fact, much importance has also been given at the fact that the Delhi State Hajj Committee chairperson Kausar Jahan has also given nod to these amendments, as they are pushing the rights of the women to be protected. Now, there is another proposed amendment where the no cases will be reopened retrospectively and disputed government properties are an exception. So, the cases which have already been decided and the cases which have already been resolved, the proposed amendments by the JPC suggest that these cases will not be opened up. Again, the Waqf tribunal given power to extend the timeline of registration of Waqf properties in select cases. The Waqf tribunal given power to extend the timeline of the registration of Waqf proceedings is also selected. The courts can allow the filing of suits subject to Waqf submitting an affidavit on why it did not register on the portal within 6 months. This is a time that has been given for the boards to also register themselves on the portals. Now, the registered, let's also look at some numbers, the data that is coming up and also takes up a large chunk of deciding the narrative on the arguments that are being made for and against of the Waqf Amendment Bill. And very importantly, to understand that why is it being criticized and why some are coming up to also welcome the move. It is not just politically motivated, but also very importantly need to be understood that what are the critical points where the government and the stakeholders have taken consideration in deliberations as well to look into the amendments that will protect the communities that have so far not been benefited. Now, the numbers say that more than double is what in the year 2009 to 2024, the Waqf properties that have been registered, they have been registered in more than double numbers. Earlier the number was at 3 lakhs and then it straight up rose to over 8 lakhs. That is nearly 3 times, and in fact this is what the registered Waqf properties numbers from this year 2009 to 2024 as per the data that has been accessed is given at. And if we proceed further, in fact these registered properties, registered Waqf properties from earlier times have a total land area covered. These are the properties that stand to be registered in the year 2024, and these properties in collective manner have nearly 10 lakh hectares covered. Now, there has to be a complete transparency as far as the rights of any of the boards that are religiously controlled is concerned, because 10 lakh hectares is the area that has been covered. It's a huge number, and that is why scrutiny needs to be also observed in that matter, and that is what the amendments are also hinting at. Now, nearly 9 lakhs registered Waqf properties and nearly 10 lakh hectares area covered as far as the data in 2024 is concerned. The estate of the Waqf hint at nearly 4 lakh, and where immovable properties are nearly 9 lakhs and the movable properties are nearly 17,000. This is the rough number that in fact we have given you as at this point of time, which are huge in numbers, and that is why the government and the opposition are at loggerheads to understand that why exactly this has been in contention. All right, viewers, on that note, in fact, the Waqf remains to be the hot topic at